Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. All praise is due to Allah. May His peace and blessings be upon His last messenger Muhammad, and upon all those who follow the path of righteousness until the last day. We welcome you once again, dear viewers, to another episode on the hereafter. Another in a series of Islamic programs presented to you by Sharjah Satellite Television from Sharjah in the United Arab Emirates. We've been talking about the grave. We've talked about the moments of death, the moments leading up to death, the moments when the soul leaves the body, when the soul is taken from the body. And we started now to talk about the grave. And we mentioned that the Prophet had mentioned that the grave is the first step in the Akhirah, and towards the Akhirah. And that if you go through it easily, if you pass through it easily, then everything that comes after it will be easy. And if you cannot go through it, if it's difficult for you, then everything after it will become worse and worse and worse. And he mentioned in a hadith we narrated that he said that the graves are dark. The graves are a dark place. But he mentioned that because of his salah on the people, that Allah would lighten the graves, would bring light into the grave. The grave, the qabr, as soon as it meets you, as soon as it meets a person, because you belong there. We're from the earth, we belong there. And so as soon as we're approaching the grave, the person is being put into the grave, approaching the grave will squeeze you, will hug you, it will squeeze you. Any person, when it's being put into the grave, when it first meets the grave will squeeze that person. It seems like a hug, but it is in reality a painful squeeze, because you are part of the earth, and that's where you were created from. And so when you return to the earth, the grave, it squeezes the person. The Prophet, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, he said, the grave squeezes, and if anyone would have been saved from this squeeze, it would have been Sa'ad ibn Mu'adh. Even Sa'ad ibn Mu'adh, the wali of Allah, he was squeezed by the grave. The Prophet, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, he said, Sa'ad ibn Mu'adh, this is the man for whom the throne of Allah shook when he died. And this is the man for whom the doors of heavens will be opened up for. And this is the man for whom 70,000 malaika, 70,000 angels accompanied in his janazah, in his funeral procession. But the grave squeezed him. But then it released him. This man is the wali of Allah. The gates of heaven were open for him. 70,000 angels descended for his janazah. He was a righteous man. Still, the grave squeezed him. But then it let him go. The throne of Allah, the arsh of Allah shook for the death of Sa'ad. And the doors of the heavens opened, welcoming the soul of Sa'ad. And 70,000 angels, they came down, especially to accompany the janazah of Sa'ad. Because Sa'ad was the leader of the Al-Ansar. He was the leader of Al-Ansar, one of the leaders who opened up Medina for the Prophet, may God's peace and blessings be upon him. And he is one of the ones who hosted the Prophet, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, and was the best host. And he is one of the people who defended the Prophet until he died. And that was the honor that Allah gave him. Nevertheless, he was still squeezed in the grave. The Prophet, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, he said, if anyone is going to be saved from the squeezing of the grave, it would be this young child. There was a young child who was buried, and even that child was squeezed by the grave. So we'll start to look at the fitnatul qabr, the trials and the tribulations of the grave. What is happening, what is going on, Allah tells us in Quran, the hadith of the Prophet, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, what we have been told about some of the trials and the tribulations, the fitna of the grave. The Prophet, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, he mentions in hadith about the questioning of a person in the grave. The questioning that the person in the grave will face. As soon as that person gets into the grave, two angels, Al-Munkar and Nakir, they would descend on that person. And they would scream at him. And they yell at him, and they would shock that person and surprise him. As soon as he comes into the grave, these two angels, Munkar and Nakir, they descend in the grave of that person, and they shout at him. And they will startle that person, they will shock that person, surprise him. Meaning that the way of conversation with these two angels is not very polite. They are tough, and they are strong. They are firm in their questioning, and they expect a straight answer immediately. They're not coming down and being very gentle, and when you're ready, we're going to come. No, they're coming down with a very tough and strong means of questioning, and they expect an immediate, straightforward answer. Whether you're a believer or not, they're going to come in that fashion. Whether it's not that they're going to come only to the non-believers and to the evildoers, they come in that fashion and scream at them and surprise them and demand an immediate, straightforward answer and very tough in their questioning. No. Whether you're a believer or a non-believer, they come to the person in the grave in that fashion. Al-Intihar, this is when they come and they scream at the person. They scream to him loudly and straightforwardly, in a straightforward manner. So these angels, they will come down, Munkar and Nakir, and they will ask 3 questions. They will come down and they will ask 3 questions. Who is your Lord? What is your religion? And who is your prophet? Only 3 questions. This is the examination. This is the test. And this is the test that we should prepare for. This is the test we need to prepare for. Because this test has in it only 3 questions. We know the questions and we know the answers. But we need to prepare for it. Because we know the answers does not mean that we will be able to say the answers when we are in the grave. We study years for tests. Throughout our lifetime, throughout our schooling, we're studying for a great many tests, spending a lot of our time throughout our years studying for tests. How much time are we giving for this most important test that we are going to face in our lifetime? We have to look at ourselves and check ourselves. We spend many years in school and university taking tests and doing whatever, preparing. But how much time are we giving and preparing for this most important test, the most important test we will face in our lifetime? We know the questions and we know the answers. Who is your Lord? What is your religion? And who is your prophet? 3 questions. We know. The questions have been given to us. We know what we will be asked. And the angels, they expect immediate, straightforward answers. Not that you take your time and think and go look it up or what have you. No. They're expecting immediate, straightforward answers. And the believer would say, my Lord is Allah. They said, who is your Lord? Immediately he would say, my Lord is Allah. And when asked, what is your religion? Immediately he would say, my religion is Islam. And asked, who is your prophet? Immediately he said, my prophet is Muhammad. May God's peace and blessings be upon him. They would hear a sound coming from above. They will ask these 3 questions. The believer will answer in this manner, immediately in a straightforward manner. My Lord is Allah. My religion is Islam. My prophet is Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then they would hear a sound coming from above, saying, my servant is telling the truth. So Allah is verifying the answers. The angels, they are asking the questions. And the person, the soul in the grave is answering. And then Allah is verifying if the answers that we are giving are the truth or not. And that is where Allah says in the Quran, Allah will establish in strength those who believe with the word that stands firm in this world and in the hereafter. This is from Quran chapter 14, verse 27. And so, what is the firm statement? La ilaha illallah. That is the firm statement, the firm and established statement. That is the truth. That is the reality. And so Allah will set the believer firm on this statement, established statement, La ilaha illallah. There is no God worthy of worship except Allah. But with the non-believer, or with the munafiq, they would come down And the angels will come down and question them. Who is your Lord? What is your religion? Who is your prophet? And when they would ask him about the prophet, the people, they would say, well, I don't know. They'll hesitate, they'll think, I don't know. I heard the people say this, and I said it. And the angels, it said, they would smash him with a hammer that would turn him into dust. He would not answer the question. He's hesitating. I don't know. He doesn't know what to say. He can't say the answer. I don't know, but I heard people saying this, and so I said it. And that's not the answer that the angels want to hear. And so they will smash that soul with a hammer that will turn him into dust. That person is saying what he heard.